Here's why I failed as a PT, and here's why for most people, PT doesn't work. Now, firstly, this isn't me saying that I was a bad personal trainer. This isn't me saying that I didn't give a good service to my clients. This is just me now reflecting at a much later stage in my career that what I was doing with my clients or the kind of results that I was getting with my clients wasn't up to the standard where it should have been, or certainly not where it is now. And I think this is the problem for most people now when it comes to hiring a personal trainer, because I think that the standard of coaching that the people receive, it definitely doesn't meet the expectation for what most people actually need. I'm not going to slander myself too much. Like when I was a personal trainer, when I used to work at Pure Gym, when I used to work at David Lloyd, my clients liked me. I had good retention with some of my clients. But when I class what my clients were looking for in terms of results, and when I actually think about the results I delivered, I did not seem to get that great results with my clients. I didn't seem to help that many of them lose weight. I didn't really help that many of them change their physique, change their life. So to me, that's what I class as failure when I'm looking at this from a personal training perspective. So the reason why people go and get a PT, or the reason why people go and get a coach, is because they are trying to achieve a particular goal. And whilst it's great to, have a chat with clients, make them feel more welcome in the gym, make them feel more confident, get them to be more, get out of the house, be more active, that's not why people pay for personal trainers, okay? We're missing the wood for the trees here. And this is often what happens to a lot of people when they get into this process of hiring a PT and they don't get the results that they wanted. So anyway, firstly, before we get into this, I'm going to kind of cover my background a little bit, how I fell into PT, how I do what I do now, and why what I do now is so much more effective when it comes to transforming people's lives. And the results that we get now are way better than what it ever used to be. So I went to university and I studied sports science. That was how I got into personal training. That's how I became a personal trainer, because I did it at university. So I studied personal training at probably a better level than what most people become personal trainers at. And this brings me on to one of the first problems with PT, is that anyone can become a PT in 6 weeks. You could literally go do a crash course and then you can teach someone how to improve their lifestyle, improve their health without really knowing that much. It's not really a difficult qualification to be able to obtain. So anyway, I did mine a little bit more professionally. I got a little bit more guidance. And then after getting to university, I went and got my first job as a personal trainer at David Lloyd. Now, this was when I was still in the very early stages of my career. I took on a few clients at this point. I was never the sort of person who was doing that many PT sessions. But even at that point, I wasn't really having a huge amount of success in terms of, really helping my clients that much. Like, yes, I'd give them a basic gym program. I'd help them, maybe get a little bit fitter, a bit stronger, but there wasn't really much of a change in their physique, and they certainly didn't achieve really that great result. After that, I then went on to Pure Gym, and that's where I stayed for about a year and a half and carried on my personal training career there. And for sure, my results definitely improved at that point. I'd obviously had a little bit more knowledge, but again, the actual physical transformations that my clients had when I was a PT, and I was seeing them maybe once, twice, even 3 times per week, they didn't really change that much. They didn't really transform. They didn't really lose much weight. Maybe lose a bit of weight, they gain it back, or they'd lose weight slowly over time. And of course, like, some of this I have to take on myself. I wasn't clearly good enough at my job to be able to help them properly, but also it made me realize that there are a lot of flaws with a personal training model and why it just doesn't work for most people. Okay, now here's something to think about. Personal training is always fallen into this hourly kind of thing where you pay a PT an hourly rate, whether that's like 30, 35, obviously if it's in London, maybe towards maybe like 60, 70 pounds. Some PTs you end up paying like £100 an hour to. That's always what the model's been, where you kind of just end up like paying for their time. It's like a trading time for money type thing, instead of actually paying them for the result or investing in the result. This is something that's quite hard to understand sometimes, because people almost come into online coaching and feel like it's the same thing when it's really, really not. Okay. You get a coach or you get a personal trainer because you want a result. You want to look a certain way. You want to lose fat. You want to get in shape. You want to run a marathon. You're not trying to trade their time for your result. You want to just invest in the result. And this is where the PT model always gets flawed, because there's no emphasis on the result. There's just emphasis on how many sessions I get or how much time do I need to give this person. Again, we're missing wood for the trees. Like, you are investing in a result, which is why now with what we do at FitLab, our clients aren't paying for my time or Matt's time. They are paying or they're investing in a result which we know with 100% conviction we can deliver. It's not that they're paying for time. The time that it takes myself and Matt to coach our clients is way less than what it would be if we were to see them every single week. And this is the problem with the personal training model. It's not results focused. It's just focused around an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours in the gym per week, which even in the grand scheme of things is not that much when it comes to a full transformation. It's nothing at all considering most of the work is actually done outside of the gym. So this is firstly one of the biggest issues that I see with personal training, where the results are not the focus. It's the time instead of the actual result that you're wanting and you're wanting to invest in yourself. Secondly, now this is for sure probably the thing that stands out for me the most. I know for an absolute fact I wasn't doing this at all, which is why my clients weren't progressing, definitely not at the rate that they should have been, and that's nutrition. Now, whilst I helped my clients with nutrition, I gave them very basic advice, it was nothing close to what they needed. Nutrition is not a complex topic, but it's something that's hard to understand when you have no idea about nutrition and you haven't really read up on it or you haven't applied it, you haven't learned it. So for me to just give completely basic advice to my clients, like eat this amount of calories or eat this much protein without actually teaching them, what foods, when to eat, all this kind of thing, it never really worked. And the nutrition support during PT is just never, ever where it needs to be. And this is, again, obviously quite a broad statement to make, but this is the case for most personal trainers, for most people that go and invest in a personal trainer. They don't get the support that they need through nutrition, which is 80% of your result. It is the most important thing when it comes to losing fat. You are not going to lose weight unless you have a good nutrition strategy on board that you can implement and that you can action. And my nutrition strategy with my clients when I was a personal trainer was giving them a little bit of rough guidance, maybe just creating a quick meal plan for them on Word and sending it across to them. And then the accountability was just literally at the start of their session, 5 minutes on the treadmill would just be, yeah, how did you get on last week with nutrition? Oh, well, yeah, it was all right. I didn't track around the weekend. Oh, okay, yeah, you should probably do that next weekend. That was it. That was the nutrition strategy that I was giving my clients. And the support just wasn't there in terms of what they really needed. And this lacks for most people. Sometimes I know a lot of PTs just give their clients some calories, or they give them some macros, or they might just give them this like random nutrition plan that they could probably find themselves online. And this is half the problem when it comes to PT. This is why I believe that I wasn't successful in the realm of PT, and the fact that I didn't get great results with my clients. I didn't get great body transformations because I wasn't teaching them about nutrition. And then this leads me nicely onto my next point. The accountability system doesn't work. The way that clients are held accountable now with what we do at FitLab is completely different to what I did when I was a personal trainer. And a lot of people think, well, hang on a second, if you're actually seeing someone in person every week, surely that's a much easier way to stay accountable. Surely they're held more accountable from actually being in the flesh with someone and seeing a PT and having to come in and check in with them properly. This is not true. The level of check-in or accountability that most PTs, certainly that I offered as a personal trainer, was not good enough. Like, I see my clients once a week, sometimes twice a week, but we wouldn't formally look at the stats of check-ins. We wouldn't look at things. We wouldn't take an analytical approach in terms of looking at things like weight, looking at things like waist measurements, or even things like, hunger, stress that week, all these different things that are important in the body transformation. We would never look at these things. I might just take a photo of them every couple of weeks and just throw them on the scales and use one of those rubbish scanners which tells people their body fat, which never is accurate anyway. That's typically what this came down to, which again, it just wasn't results focused. There was no check-in, looking at the analytical data and making decisions based off that, and then putting a plan in place for the following week. That just wasn't the case. The check-in support just wasn't there. And once that session was over with my clients, I would have no contact with them until the next week. I'd speak to them next week, and then a whole week had gone past. Imagine what can go wrong an entire week. Life gets in the way, the weekend goes past, there is no support. So the actual accountability compared to what we do now, even though it's online, it's completely different. This is, we're checking in with our clients sometimes every day, at least multiple times throughout the week, because this is what gets results with people, actually not holding people's hands, but being in their corner. And, they know that if they ever get stuck, you can just send them a message. You can send myself, they can send Matt a message. And it's that level of support and accountability, which I don't see in the personal training model. Even if you saw your PT daily, I still just don't think that there is enough of a check-in process in place that most people abide to that actually really generates results. You're either making results, you're either getting closer to your goal, or you're not. And if you have a check-in in place every single week, that's a decision that you can easily make. And this is exactly why we have this in place at FitLab. The next problem that I always used to run into is, even if even if I managed to get my clients to the stage where they lost enough weight, I didn't have a process of what to do afterwards. There was no journey. There was no real understanding. It was just kind of lose a bit of weight and come to the gym. Whereas that is not what most people need. And the reality is now is that losing the weight is only a part of the journey. It's only a process. You know, after you've lost the weight, that's when the hard work actually starts, because you need to understand how to maintain your result. You need to go through the reverse diet, the building phase. None of these things I covered as a personal trainer. I didn't even know what I was doing at that point in terms of, I didn't know what phases looked. I didn't even know what reverse dieting really was to the extent that I do now. And this is the problem. There was no journey in place, which meant that there was no phased approach, which meant, again, the long-term chance of success was incredibly slim, to the fact that it wasn't very likely at all unless they were to go and research what they should have done after the diet anyway. So the lack of journey, the lack of phases, the lack of future pacing and planning with clients was another massive pitfall with the PT model. That, again, is the most important ingredient to staying in shape for life. And most importantly, it's the exchange of knowledge. Now, when it comes to personal training, I see this a lot. And again, I kind of probably fell into this myself a little bit, but you don't teach clients what they need to know. You don't exchange the knowledge. You don't tell them, you don't get them to learn, you don't change their mindset. You're almost just dangling a carrot in front of their face where they want to come back. They feel they need to come back because they feel that if they lose you as a personal trainer, they'll go back to square one again. So it's almost a bit of a guilt trip game that you're playing, where you're not quite giving them the full knowledge and the full support that they actually need, because you just want them to keep paying you every single month. You want them to keep essentially paying for more and more sessions and more blocks so they stay with you. You know, it's, again, we're missing what the actual result here that is at stake. Whereas what we do now is very different with our clients. I am not here to get our clients to stay with us for the rest of their lives. Now, some of our clients, a lot of our clients, they enjoy the program. They're always progressing. They love the accountability. So of course they stay. We have good retention at FitLab. But I always explain at the start to our clients that you are not going to need me forever. Okay, I am a coach that is going to be in your life, that is going to change your life for the better. You will always remember my name. You will remember that in a positive light, but you will not need coaching forever, because I will teach you what you need to know to do this yourself, to make this a lifetime result, so you never need to hire another coach again. And that is by giving the knowledge and actually telling clients what they need to know and not withholding anything so they stay for longer. Our process at FitLab is a results-driven investment where if it's made, you are not going to need to make it again. So while some people compare online coaching and our program, they're like, oh, well, your coaching's more than a personal trainer. How long would you have to pay a personal trainer for to get the result that you want to achieve? How long and how many years would that take? So not only is it more of a time investment, but how much money would you be spending on blocks and packages over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years when you could just achieve the result in 6 to 12 months quicker? And you're not tied to have to go to the gym to meet someone every single week, where if you're like a lot of our clients that are super busy, that are traveling all the time, that's not really possible as well. So this isn't me slandering personal training. This is me actually giving my experience as to why I wasn't a great personal trainer, and me explaining why I don't think I really did my clients justice. Like, I wouldn't have paid myself back then. I'm being honest. If I had to pay myself to get to a position where I wanted to lose fat, gain shape, get in better shape, build my confidence, I would not have paid myself to go and have done that. Now, I was a lovely guy. My clients liked me. They loved training with me. I felt like I had great rapport with my clients. So of course they enjoyed the hours that they spent with me, but the results, they just weren't that significant. So this is just some food for thought. Obviously, when you find a coach, you know, go with what you think is going to work best for you. You might find some personal trainers are completely different to what I've just explained, but the world is changing so much now. You know, people are moving around more, people are working online more. It's more of a digital world than what it used to be. The old school methods don't work the same as they used to. So be more open-minded when it comes to results, when it comes to getting in shape, and what you think might work best for you. So as always, guys, I hope you found this video super useful. If you have, make sure you smash the like button, make sure you hit subscribe for future videos, bell notifications so you're notified every single time I post, and I will catch you in the next video.